So today's analytics overview, just like Pete said, understanding this user journey using kind of a seldom seen report in Google Analytics called the multi-channel funnels group, and specifically the top conversion paths. And when we refer to user journey, again, what are we referring to there? It's kind of how your prospects interact with various marketing channels on their way to a conversion, whether that's a transaction or a goal conversion that you have configured or what. And I think what we'll see is that more often than not, it's a pretty extended web journey.
It's a big bowl of spaghetti, isn't it?
Yeah. It can be. Influenced by multiple marketing channels from you and your competitors. And as we see these longer paths, we see that people have opportunity to drop out of that funnel, and they come back because they're finding value, feeling trust, and a rewarding user experience along the way. So let's get into a little bit of an analytics report here. This is pre-recorded video so that we can block out client identification here. So this is basically the meat of Google Analytics in here. This is the area that all of your monthly reporting is coming from your account manager.
We should have a poll up too, Julia. Next time we're going to have a poll as far as who on this call is using Google Analytics on a daily basis, weekly basis.
You bet. And that's a great point, Pete. Yep. This is your data. We only leverage it for your success. So it's at your fingertips, and we'd love to help you learn how to dig in a little more if you're curious. But we can see here, this is the acquisition report, and we are looking at channels. A channel is a group of similar traffic sources. So for example, as we go through these, we can see that there is organic, direct, paid, etc. And we're looking at almost a year of time here. We are going to kind of be focusing on transactions today as our conversion, because this is the conversion path, the user journey to conversion. So take a note of that number there. I know you all have taken notes. 1,753 transactions during this period. And we're going to pay close attention to paid search today. So write those numbers down right there too. 150 transactions are being attributed to paid search in this report. Now what's important to understand about this, the main Google Analytics reporting method is their attribution method is referred to as last non-direct click attribution. So what we can see here in this report is that all of these transactions are being attributed to a single channel. It's not showing at all how these interact. And it might lead folks to think that the people that converted from organic search didn't interact with these other marketing channels, and most of the time that's not true. We don't see that here.
Okay.
So let's move on and go explore the world of the user journey. So down here in conversions, in the multi-channel funnels area, we find top conversion paths. Now these other reports are also fantastic topics for blog posts and further webinars, but today we are just going to make a brief brush into the top conversions path. This is the true user journey, and we could spend an hour or more on this. Okay. So let's configure the report. We are going to determine what type of conversion we're looking at today. Instead of goals, we're only going to focus on transactions. And the path length. Now this is interesting. Let's talk about our path length. We can see here it's showing our 1,753 conversions, right? That's the same as the other report. But what this is showing us is how many different marketing channel touches occurred before a user's transaction. It's not necessarily sessions, it's separate marketing channel touches. So we can see that the one touch transaction happened 492 times during this time period. That's only about a quarter of all of the transactions that took place during this period. What's really interesting is when we look down here beyond 5 separate marketing channel touches, we're starting to see that about a third of all your transactions during this time period involved more than 5 marketing channel crossovers. So good stuff there. That's kind of eye-opening for a lot of folks. Our conversion type, we're looking at all rather than just AdWords. And this look back window is really interesting. This shows how long people have been in the funnel. So up to 90 days prior to conversion. So they started a conversion 3 months ago and converted today. They're in this funnel. 90 days is the longest look back that Google affords us. But yes, people are in their booking funnel for up to 90 days and beyond. Okay, good. So let's get into the data. Again, 1,753 transactions. That's what we saw in the other reporting. There have been 364 variations of this conversion path. We're just opening up the window so we can scroll past the first 10. And right up in the top, we're looking at the 2 most used conversion paths. We can also, so these are single touch attributions, and remember that made up only 25% of all your bookings. Here's another one down here. Single touch paid search made up 2% of all your transactions. What we can see though is that right away it's obvious that it takes more than one touch, one marketing channel to get to that buy now button. When we see little numbers here, each one of these blocks represents a different channel, if you will, marketing channel. And this number indicates the number of sessions. So for example, 81 users, 81 transactions can be attributed to users that came to your site directly 3 times. And we'll see that these get pretty complex as we look at some of this stuff.
Well, we're talking about a $6 million cash register here and how people are interacting with it.
Exactly.
And I thought they'd just Google you, you were at the top of Google, and then they hit book now, right? That would be beautiful.
Right.
But that's not how it works.
No.
Oh.
No. Even now, with that last click attribution model that we talked about, last non-direct click is what it is. This particular conversion path, these will be attributed to paid search, but it's important to understand that they didn't just come from that click. They came from direct for another session before they were able to pull the trigger. That happened. That was the path for 17 users.
60 grand in bookings.
Yeah.
Jack, do we see at the bottom there somebody visited 10 or 13 times before they finally converted?
Absolutely, and it gets even better. Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting to see how people will come direct, and direct that's another topic for another day. It's confusing for a lot of people, but what it is a group of sessions that Google is not able to assign a source to. So, for example, if you just type your domain name in the search bar, that'll come in as direct. There's a million other reasons why a session could be direct, but let's just call it a channel today. It's interesting how people will come direct and then back to organic search and then back, or they'll do an organic search, come to your site, and then they'll see a link to your site somewhere else and come to your site that way and book. So really interesting. And I did mention that we are there's so much data in here. Like we said, 300 and some separate conversion paths. We are going to end up looking at paid search specifically, just so we can drill down some of the data and that's one of the challenges.
And we talked about maddening and stuff like that, and paid search can be maddening. So this is a good one for
absolutely.
Everybody.
A lot of folks run paid advertising campaigns with Google and Bing. And by the way, the paid search channel here includes all of your paid search efforts, whether it's Google AdWords or remarketing campaign or Bing. That is all represented by paid search here. But what we often see,
Facebook, like Facebook paid ads, or will that show up as social?
That's going to come in as social.
Got it. Cool. Okay.
But what we often see is, dang, I only had X amount of transactions attributed directly to paid search this month, and it's easy for people to not feel like paid search is playing an important part in these user journeys. So let's take a look.
Right, because I mean the first thing, and you can keep going. I don't mean, but people will look at their paid search budget. They'll look at how much they drew in total gross revenue. You back out your 5 to 50% commission, depending on where you are, and you make a determination. I'm winning or losing right there, and what you're showing is that if you're you can't do that. You got to look at the whole user journey, because paid search started a lot of these things.
Absolutely.
But didn't necessarily finish it.
Or and might not have gotten that attribution that was involved in that path.
Right, that's interesting.
What we need to remember is your clients, your prospects, they're shopping. They're shopping the web, looking for, like I said, that value and that trust and that user experience, something that suits their personality. So that's why it's important to be at every possible touch point that they might. You have to be in their face so that they recognize and remember your brand and have it resonate with them. So what we did was put on a filter here in this advanced segment to show only transactions that involve paid search at some point along the user journey. And we can see that, again, a lot of people like to think it's as clean as one click from paid search and transactions. And yes, that did happen 33 out of 228 times, and remember that number. But that only made up 14%, 15% of all of the transactions that involve paid search during this time period, which is almost a year. So interesting. Let's take a look at the number that you jotted down on your scratch paper. That, I believe it was 170 or 150, and the revenue that we saw in that direct reporting was only $480,000. So we can see that paid is contributing a significant number of transactions and revenue that don't get daylighted in that standard analytics reporting that is most common. So we can see here how, let's take an example, this number 7. It was the transaction path for 4 users. They came to your site first from an organic search, but then found you again from a paid search, and then came back again from another organic search before they pulled the trigger. What's interesting to remember, again, with standard last non-direct click attribution, here's a paid search interaction that brought them to your site, refreshed their memory of your brand, but they pulled the trigger on a session from organic search. That's how these hidden transactions from paid search happen. Now, what we're going to see is that another example of some of these paths get pretty convoluted. 3 folks. Now, what we see, so many of these clicks involve follow-up visits and multiple sessions. We can see here, now we're starting to see how paid and direct and organic. This is 70 sessions here. There's a lot of explanations for that.
Yeah.
And remember, these people can be in this funnel for 90 days, so they do have a lot of time to shop. One other thing that's important to remember about this reporting, and I should have mentioned it earlier, is that this is only showing one user with one device. We do not have cross-device tracking. So as we know, everybody, when they're shopping for something as big as a vacation home reservation, they're looking at it on their mobile phone while they're on the subway. They're sending an email with a link to their wife to take a look at it. They come home, they're daydreaming at work instead of working, thinking about their vacation. None of those sessions show up here. What we are looking at solely is the device that they started their journey on is the one that they ended up transacting on. So here we see email get involved in this. We'll take another look at email in a minute, but as you can see, these journeys get pretty long. I've got one other real special. Here's a transaction attributed to social in there.
That was through paid though too.
It started as paid, converted from social.
Yep.
So it's important that you stay visible. And we can see this guy Again, pretty complex, but look at our guy in row number 81 as we get here.
That's a tough way to squeeze out. You know, these guys
Yeah.
are squeezing out $1,500. That's an $8,000 reservation.
Yep. So what can we learn about that? People are shopping, okay? And
Wow.
also we can be pretty assured that this guy's been in the funnel for a long time. He's probably a one-device user, and he committed. He felt pretty. He wanted to be sure about committing $8,400.
Yeah. How do you know? Oh, yeah, we know.
Yep.
Wow.
So that's interesting. So last thing, real quick, is let's take a quick look at email.
Because this is going to feed into what Elisa's about to. Elisa's going to show us a success story with email. So yeah, I'll keep going here.
Yep. So 97 transactions involving email. We're going to put a secondary dimension on, which is campaign. This allows us to see exactly which email campaign got them in. And look, the top 3 conversion paths involve the share listing feature in Rezfusion. So it's a powerful feature. People are collaborative when they're booking these vacation rentals, and that shows it. This guy in line number 7, we can see he came in from a paid search, but at some point he got hooked on the email program. Opened October newsletters, came to the site 9-10 times from that, but then he got hit again. He got reminded again in the November newsletter, and that led to him very near the end of the funnel pulling the trigger. So maybe there was a special or some other thing in there, some other value proposition that resonated with him. So that's an example of how these different paths work together. Last thing, again, 97 transactions associated with email. Let's look at what the last non-direct click attribution shows us, and it is 77. So there was, a couple dozen hidden transactions during this time period that aren't directly attributed to email, but email was definitely a part of. So that is the look at the customer journey and how important it is for folks to really be visible